Hello there, I'm Vince Sims. Thanks for joining us for this NBC5 Community Conversations. We are joined by Dr. Summer Rose, who is with Communities in Schools Dallas Region, the Chief Clinical Officer. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. We first want to start off talking about Communities in Schools. What is this?
So Communities in Schools of the Dallas region is a nonprofit, a 501c3 nonprofit that is designed to support K through 12 students with individualized support, really kind of targeted towards academics, behavior, or attendance needs. So if kids are struggling in any of those three areas or social services, our program is designed to support those needs.
What does this look like when you're saying you're doing this in schools, I guess, basically? So what does it kind of look like?
It looks like having a caring individual on campus every day that the school is open. So this person is case managing a student that might have some high needs. They're providing one-on-one support. They could be tutoring. They could be referring them to the team that I lead, which is the clinical team, and we provide individual, group, and crisis counseling services on campus during the school day so that we remove the barriers of having to pull kids out of school, parents having to take off from work. We're coming to the students and we're providing those services on campus.
Why are these services so important?
Oh man, I'm so glad you asked, because our babies are struggling. You know, I think that there were some needs that were apparent prior to the pandemic, and unfortunately the pandemic is the gift that keeps on giving. So as we get more information from the CDC and Health and Human Services, it really does highlight the increased depression statistics, anxiety, and suicidal ideation with our youth. And so our program over the last school year served over 10,000 students. 61% of those students were deemed as at risk for dropping out, not matriculating, not graduating on time. And so of those students, about 50% come from Dallas County. So our statistics from Dallas County show us that of the students that we served, 99% of them matriculated to the next grade level, and 100% of them stayed in school. And so I think that's a phenomenal outcome for a program such as ours.
Wow, that is. I mean, those are great numbers there. That's a great outcome. As you mentioned, a lot from Dallas County, but what are the areas that you serve? So
we are in over 100 schools in almost 14 school districts. So we are far and wide. I talk about the fact that we are as far north as Sherman, Bonham, and Denison, as far south as Midlothian and DeSoto, and then everything in between.
As you were talking about this, it's obviously a critical need for this because, as you said, the kids are facing things these days that haven't faced before in the past.
Yes. I mean, so for one, social media, right? This constant access to feed all the time, right? And that presents a number of challenges that none of us really understand as adults, right? I talk to adults about the fact that none of us know what it's like to be a teenager in 2024, right?
Exactly.
And so with these things, we got to be more intentional about how we're supporting our youth because they have so much more access than what was once had.
We used to think about, we always heard about bullying, but it was like you had to deal with it after school, 3 o'clock on the playground with the bully. It wasn't online that's a permanent record left behind and just constant bullying or something like that. So it's a different world for them.
Comparison, right? We have all of the comparison that happens because, social media is a highlight reel. So people really just kind of show the best parts of their lives. But our youth don't know that. Our youth are looking at this as fact. And so they're comparing what they're going through, which then we start to see kind of an increase in depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation as a result of that.
And because of that, is that part of the mental health landscape that your organization is trying to address and, combat?
We are doing our very best. I unfortunately, have the experience of supporting campuses that have lost youth to suicide, right? And I don't know where you were in 6th grade, but I can tell you in 6th grade, suicide was the furthest thing from my mind. I don't even really think that I had a concept of what suicide was. But here we are burying babies, right? And so with that knowledge, I think it is imperative for not just programs like CIS, but all the individuals that support youth to be mindful of what are the signs and symptoms of a mental health crisis? How do we understand this and how do we connect them to very needed services to get in front of burying another child?
Sadly, in our industry, it's something that we've even seen and had to cover because there's many districts around, the area that is facing young people dying by suicide. So definitely something that needs to be addressed. Parents that are sitting home watching this and thinking like, well, I may not be able to get to that service. I may not be in the Dallas area for, but what should I be looking for, or how can I maybe some tips for parents at home on how to address this themselves?
I'm so glad you asked, because you're right. Not everybody has access to our program or programs of the life. And so for the adults that are in the lives of youth that are supporting these students, I really talk to them about be the example, right? The students, our youth, are looking at us to understand, how do I in a healthy way navigate conflict? You know, what does having a healthy boundaries look like? What do healthy coping skills look like? How do you manage stress? So they are looking at you first. And so really, you know, starting with yourself is what I'm tell the adults in the lives of children, because they want to know. You can tell them what to do, but if they don't see you doing it, how likely are they, you know, to pull your card on that, right? The other thing is open communication, right? If you are in constant communication with your child and or student, right? If you have frequent check-ins, if you know, join them in their world, let them teach you the TikTok dance and all the things, right, that help them feel capable and confident. When you join with them, then you're able to pick up when something's off, right? When their mood kind of dips, right? When they're sleeping a little bit more than usual, when, you know, they're not as excited or interested in activities that used to bring them joy. When you start to notice, you can notice those things better if you have had kind of a pulse on what they look like up until that point. And so then the third thing I would say is, once you notice something, do something, right? Whether that's asking questions of a professional that's in your life, pediatrician, primary care physician, school counselor, teachers, right? When you're wondering about, I kind of don't know what I'm seeing. Is this typical teenage behavior? Is this a little bit different? You know, I talk to adults, pay attention to that spidey sense. You know your child, you know your baby. And so, you know, when you notice something, then do something. We want both adults and youth to be aware of the resources that are at their disposal. Things like our program over at CIS Dallas, things like counseling, things like, you know, support groups, all of the helplines, 988. I want to stress that, 988 for anybody that might be contemplating suicide. You know, that is an essential resource that helps save our babies before they get to that point. And so those are the top three things that kind of come to mind for me as far as what folks at home can be doing, both parents and teachers that are in the lives of our students.
If people want a little more information about Communities in Schools, Dallas region, and the programs that you offer and everything, how do they go about finding that?
Catch me in the grocery store. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh, yes, they can. They can do that, too.
No, but go to our website at cisdallas.org. You can see what we've got going on, ways to join and get involved if you want to volunteer, if you want to donate. And right now we've got Amazon wish lists that we're trying to fill. We've got backpacks and school supplies and uniforms that we want to be able to provide to students that are in need. And so if you all go to our website and check out our Amazon wish list, you can help us to be that type of support to the students across DFW.
That's right, because I know we're in the summertime, but we're getting in that mode of back to school and everything's going to be neat. And I saw some of the pictures. So you do back to school supplies and drives, and the organization participates in that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And like I said, all of that information can be found at our website.
Okay. All right. Dr. Rose, before we let you go, I want to talk a little bit more about you. Yeah. Dr. Rose, give us a little bit of your background and what you do.
So, you know, I have the great pleasure of being able to lead a phenomenal mental health team with CIS. And so I supervise a team of licensed professionals, all of whom have a credential to be able to do this and do it well. They are amazing humans that are dispatched to our campuses to provide services to our students. And so I feel very fortunate to be able to support that work. They are the boots on the ground, and I just get to, you know, beam with pride when I see the impact that they are having on students.
And do you do private practice as well?
I do. I have private practice, my little side hustle. But yes, and I serve folks across the lifespan in my own time.
And what does that mean when you say across the lifespan? I saw that in your bio, but what does that really mean?
So 0 to, you know, you have that dash, and then like they say to fill in the blank. You know, so I'm working with all ages is what that generally means.
Okay, working with all ages. In the world of, like, we talk about mental health, it became a lot more prevalent after we were kind of going through the crisis and COVID and things. People talked about it. Do you feel like it's being discussed more and more people are open to seeking help?
I do, you know, and again, when I say COVID is the gift that keeps on giving, there's positives and negatives to that, right? And I do think that, you know, the pandemic presented a time where we were all struggling. And so it made it very comfortable for people to say, yes, I have anxiety, right? I am worried about the unknown effect of COVID. I'm worried about my elderly, you know, parents or grandparents. You know, so everybody just got really comfortable with being able to say, hey, yes, me, I'm struggling. You know, I'm not just on the struggle bus, I'm driving it today, right? And so, you know, I do think, unfortunately, it did take something like that for us to all get a little bit more honest and a little bit more real with the struggles that we were all having. They existed prior to the pandemic. Pandemic just shone a light on it, and I really do think it made people feel a lot more comfortable sharing that they were also struggling.
Let's talk a little bit about culturally. Some cultures, it's not, you know, seem as something you should do or has been happening within certain cultures, the Black community. Do you see any shifts or changes in that? I
actually do. I think that I've seen a lot more folks step up and really own the fact that, you know, it's not just physical health. Health is wealth, and we're talking about physical and mental health. And so I think there's a lot of stigma across a lot of different communities. You spoke to the Black community that, you know, what goes on in our house stays in our house, right? And what we've seen is, you know, for the folks that do end up in my office, is talking about the generational cycles that they are there to try and break, because what went on in their house stayed in their house. And that caused a lot of pain, anguish, trauma that they were looking to heal from. And so, you know, I'm very grateful. You know, I always say I'm working to put myself out of a job, right? I would like for this to be something that gets smaller and smaller, but right now we're in a place where it's getting bigger and bigger, and not a bad thing.
Yes. Because the more it's talked about, the more it's out in the open, more people will feel comfortable with seeking that help, having those discussions, and just being able to be well.
Correct.
Physically and mentally.
Absolutely.
All right, Dr. Rose, anything else you want to add, or how people can find you or more information again?
Well, so I'm listed in Psychology Today, you know, from a private practice. And again, checking us out at Communities and Schools of the Dallas region at our website, cisdallas.org.
All right, Dr. Summer Rose, thank you so much for coming in for this conversation with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.